There was a great story of a child who came home from school one day, and she comes to her mother and she says, Mom, life is so difficult. And I have a hard time with my friends. I have a hard time with my teachers. And I feel like just life is just so hard. So the mother was very wise, and she says, I want to teach you a lesson. So she brings her to the kitchen. She takes out 3 pots, and she places them on the stove, and she fills them up with water. And then she goes ahead and she takes out from the fridge an egg. She goes and she gets herself a potato, and finally she goes through the cabinets and finds a coffee bean. And then she comes up to the pots, and she shows her daughter the potato. She says, look at this potato. What does it feel like? She feels it. She says, it's very hard. She says, good. And then she goes ahead and she shows her the egg. She says, is the egg soft or hard? She says, it's very soft. And then she goes ahead and shows her the coffee bean. Finally, she goes ahead and she takes the potato, places it in the first pot. And as she places it in the first pot, they watch to see what's going to be with that potato. Meanwhile, she goes ahead and she takes the next item, which was the egg, and she places it in, thank you, and she places it in to the next pot. She places the egg into the next pot, and they watch what's going to happen with the egg. And finally, she goes ahead and she places the coffee bean into the third pot. And they wait about 5 minutes, and finally the daughter is like, okay, Mom, I didn't come here for a cooking lesson. I came here for you to tell me why is life so difficult. And you're giving me a cooking lesson? Like, I appreciate the show, and it was nice, but I really want to know, why does God make us suffer, and what's the purpose of it? And how are we supposed to respond to suffering? So the mother said, just be patient. And a few minutes later, she goes ahead and she takes out the potato, and she shows her the potato, and she lets her feel it. And she says, what does the potato feel like now? It was hard, but what does it feel like now? What happens to a potato when you boil it, when you put it through heat? It gets softened. And then she goes ahead and she takes out the egg, and the egg, which was once soft, becomes hard. And finally, she points to the coffee bean, and she notices the whole pot became coffee. She turns to her daughter and she says, my dear daughter, I want to tell you something that you should never forget for the rest of your life. There are 3 types of people in life. When they go through hardships, when they go through challenges, they react differently. The one who goes through challenges, that's like the potato, what happens to them is they become very soft. They're very strong people, they're very hard. But when life throws them a challenge, all of a sudden they start to give in, and they start to despair, and they feel, what's the point? They walk around all depressed all the time, and they're always so sad, and you could hardly get a smile out of them. That's the first type of person. When life throws them a challenge, they give up. And then there's another type of person, that's the egg. What happens to the egg when you boil it? It becomes hard. So what happens to those people? When life throws them the hardships, all of a sudden they become miserable. They become angry. They start taking their anger out on their children. They start taking their anger out on their wives. They start taking their anger out on their parents and their husbands. All because the challenge, I can't handle it. It's just too much. And become more harder. They become more miserable. And I'm sure we know people. We know people who went through challenges, and we could just see the way that they respond to those challenges. How some people become hard and thick, and they become very angry and aggravated and agitated, while others become very soft and depressed. And then she says, look at the third pot. The third pot has the coffee bean. Look at what happened to that coffee bean. The coffee bean went ahead and turned that entire pot into one big coffee. And so she said, be like the coffee bean. What's the difference between the potato, the egg, and the coffee bean? While the potato and the egg allowed the situation around them to change them, the coffee bean changed the situation around it. You hear that? The coffee bean changed the situation around it, which means instead of allowing the situations in life to change you for the worse, rather change the situation for the better. And the way you do that is, look at it from a different perspective. Understand that this is a challenge. If you pass the test, Hashem is not going to throw the challenge at you anymore. You could change the environment around you through your eyes, through your perspective, by understanding that this is my mission in this world. And then you'll come out of it much more happier, and you'll come out of it much more resilient. You'll come out of it much more stronger. But it all depends on your attitude. It all depends how you will respond to that challenge. It all depends on how you react to it and how you face your challenge. If you just give up, then you're like the potato. And if you become hard and miserable, then you're like the egg. Don't be like the egg or the potato. Be like the coffee bean that doesn't allow the situation to change it, but rather it changes the situation because it changes its mindset. And this is so true on so many levels. You have no idea. A ship does not drown until it allows the water to enter it. A ship does not drown until the waves and the current, until it doesn't enter it, the ship could stay afloat. Until you don't allow the situation around you to enter you, to get the best of you, maintain your cool. And just allow it to just go flow through life. Take your burden and put it on Hashem. Let Him deal with it. Hashem, I trust you. You know what you're doing. And then you could go through life smoothly sailing. You understand that I don't have to worry about anything. Hashem has me covered.